Back in the day, my grandpa used to go to the nearby town from his village for various purposes, leaving early morning and returning by night. The town was about 15 kilometers from the village, and then the rural areas were not much electrified. Through the outskirts and the fields, it got difficult to see the path and reach village after it got dark. Being a relatively rich man, he had helped many fellow villagers. One such person was Shankar, a farmer who owed a huge debt to my grandpa. Grandpa had lent him a large sum of money for the marriage of his only daughter, and at a time of dire need. As such, he respected and revered my grandpa with a lot of gratitude. One day, Grandpa got very, very late while coming back. He couldn't see the road and lost his way. It being the rainy season, he was finding it difficult to reach the village through the puddles. After toying with the dark for a while, Grandpa was getting very worried when a familiar voice called him from behind. It was Shankar with a lamp in his hand. Shankar immediately told Grandpa to start walking as he used the lamp from behind to show the path. He strictly told Grandpa not to look back. Not giving it much thought, Grandpa started walking. Throughout the path, he conversed with Shankar, asking how his daughter was doing and how his crops were coming around. They discussed the roads and the rains and the village, and not once did my grandpa look back. Soon they arrived at the brink of the houses. Shankar left, saying he couldn't go any further inside, as he had someplace else to go. Grandpa went on by himself and kept walking until he observed an assembly of people standing, discussing something. When they told him what they were discussing about, Grandpa froze. Shankar had passed away that day. It wasn't someone who had shown him the path. It was something. Shankar had returned from death to acknowledge his debt and provide help to Grandpa when he needed it.
This happened many decades ago, when I was still a young schoolboy. Imagine those days. No smartphones, no video games, no internet, not even CDs and DVDs. It was a time when entertainment meant going to the cinema, especially if you were a young boy living in small-town India. And I certainly lived in a small, dusty town near the east coast of southern India. We lived in a small rented house close to the railway line. The notable thing about this railway line was that it almost bisected the town. It was a major line connecting Madras in the south to Calcutta in the northeast. They weren't called Chennai and Kolkata back then. Most of the old town lived west of the railway line, while some of the new developments grew on the eastern side. As children, we really looked forward to the movies because these were rare events. The movie I wanted to watch was an old black and white film. It was a hugely popular film back in the day, and it was being re-released, and so I was full of excitement. Soon the movie released at a theater called Vijaya Mahal, and Vijaya Mahal was on the other side, on the eastern side of the railway line, while we lived on the western side. For some reason I don't remember now, I decided to catch the late-night show, typically starting around 10 p.m. and lasting up to almost 1 a.m. in the morning. Despite some grumbling, I received permission from the family. The day finally arrived, and after an early dinner, I bounded off with excitement. I sat spellbound, thoroughly enjoying the fights, the songs, and all the usual stuff. The movie finally got over around 1 a.m.
The few people who came to watch the late-night show took different routes to wherever they had to go. As for me, I was thrilled. I was over the moon. As I walked back, I kept reliving the scenes in my fantasy-filled teen head. Further along the railway line, there was a manned railway gate about a kilometer from the theater, where all the traffic was supposed to cross over to the other side. But it was 1 a.m., and the town was fast asleep. All was quiet, except for the sound of crickets from the wayside bushes. Instead of crossing the railway tracks at the manned gate, I decided to just walk across and make a shortcut of it. In a while, I crossed the thorny thuma bushes that acted as feeble barriers around the railway line. As I approached, even the crickets fell silent. I started climbing the steep embankment made of crushed gravel that cushioned the tracks. Way over to my right, in the far distance, I could see the dim lights set around the railway gate, distant and hardly visible. Back where I was, I crunched over the gravel and got to the top of the embankment. It was quite dark, but I wasn't scared. In fact, I wasn't even conscious of my surroundings. I was a boy lost in his celluloid reveries. Now I crossed the first railway track and started descending. A few feet away was the second rise with the second track. I slowly stepped into the hollow between the two embankments. I was right in the middle. Something soft touched my feet. I looked down, but couldn't see anything, not even my feet. The darkness seemed denser in the hollow. There was no moon in the sky, and hardly any starlight. What was it? Still in my distracted mind, I acted without thinking. What was it touching my feet? I bent close to the ground, and my hand stretched to touch whatever was touching me. A few moments passed. Slowly, I came out of my reverie. Now I was back in this world, conscious of the darkness, conscious of the sound of crickets that took up the chorus again, conscious of my exposed feet in simple bata chapels, conscious that my face was inches from the ground, almost smelling it, conscious of something soft against my feet, and conscious of my fingers touching a softness.
The dim world came into focus, and I saw two eyes staring into mine, their whites barely visible in the dimness. They looked at me as I looked at them, inches apart, and I saw what my fingers were grabbing. It was hair, soft, loose, long, lifeless, wet. I was looking at a human head, a female head. I was standing where her body should have been. Something clenched inside. Very, very slowly, I let go of the hair and stood up. I backed up a couple of steps. Cautiously, deliberately, silently, I started moving away from her. With all my senses now focused, I climbed the other embankment, making sure I didn't slip on the loose gravel. One step at a time, one breath at a time. As I crossed the second track, I noticed, dimly again, what might have been a body without a head. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to be sure. I descended the second berm without turning my head. My back was tingling, as though it was being watched by a pair of dead eyes. What if a dead mouth suddenly whispered my name? What if a headless body suddenly rolled over and tried to grab my ankles? Stop it. Stop thinking. One step, one breath. Soon I was walking among the brambles again. This time I wasn't careful. I didn't notice the thorns scratching at me. I didn't feel the web of bleeding lines they made on my exposed calves and knees.
I needed to keep walking, and that's what I did. Finally, I was on the other side, on the road that ran along the track and then away from it. Standing under a lamp-post and the dull pool of flickering light it made, I looked down at my feet. Nothing was touching them. I didn't want to look at my slightly gummy right hand. I only wanted to leave it behind so it didn't come with me. And then I started running as silently as I could so as not to wake the dead.
Ranjit Sen, driver, 47, was driving his new Alto, which he bought from Sudipto Chatterjee from Jalpaiguri. He was coming home from Kalimpong after the trip of the reception party alone. There was no one with him in the car, and it made him little uncomfortable. It was raining heavily and the road was deserted. No one was on the road, not even a single vehicle was plying. The eerie-looking Sevok forest that night was looking dreadful. He was in a rush as it was very late and he had a trip the next day. He was extremely tensed. His days were not going good as his new car has met with some small accidents which were really costing him. Even the accidents were mysterious and spooky. His car would automatically sometimes steer off the road and sometimes the brakes wouldn't apply. His drivers wouldn't be able to explain the incident, but all the drivers said one thing in common, that his car, Alto, was haunted. They said him that they always felt someone was in the car whenever it was night and when they were all alone. Most of the incidents would happen at night and they felt that it was something in the car which controlled it at night. Mr. Ranjit would laugh at their claim and would rebut and rebuff them after listening their claim. But all his drivers would insist on doing puja in the car, but he never paid any heed to what they said. It was already 1 a.m. when he crossed Sevok's Mandir. Everything was going good when suddenly he saw something really odd on the side of the road. He was shocked and couldn't understand anything. A lady in her mid-50s, naked, holding a thali with her hand, was going towards the temple. He swiftly passed her and didn't had the courage to turn back and look at her. He couldn't understand anything and kept driving. He was horrified. After a little time, when he was able to stable his mind, he thought that the lady must be practicing black magic. She must be a Dayan. The rain was pouring over heavily and the night looked gloomy. He wanted to reach as fast as he could to his home as he was extremely scared by the horrific incident. It was exactly 1:15 when he felt something has woken up in the car. Although he couldn't see it, but he could feel it. At first he thought he was feeling like that because of the dreadful incident which occurred just few minutes before, but after he heard a woman's shrill cry from the back seat, he was certain that someone was in the car. He was not able to think and kept driving. He started chanting Hanuman Chalisa, but still the horrible cries sound kept increasing. He finally looked at the front mirror and saw a woman wearing a sari, blood all over her body, was looking at him. He was dreaded and steered the car off the road, eventually running into a tree. He fainted at the spot. The next morning, he found himself in a hospital. He had sustained minor injuries, but the mental scars were permanently carved by the horrific incident last night. He immediately, with his relatives, went to Jalpaiguri to meet Mr. Sudipto, the owner of the haunted car. They reached at Mr. Sudipto's house and apprised him of all what had happened last night. Ranjit asked some questions to Mr. Sudipto. Mr. Ranjit, Dada, has anything happened in your car? Murder or something? Mr. Sudipto, are you mad?
Are you accusing me of something? Mr. Ranjit. No, last night I saw a lady, she was wearing a blue color sari. Mr. Ranjit told him about the details of the woman, how she looked, her age and everything about her. Mr. Sudipto. Are you sure what you saw is true? Mr. Ranjit. Yes, Dada. Mr. Sudipto was shocked and started crying. Mr. Sudipto. I think you saw my wife. Last year she met with an accident in that car.